There we go. Now talk.
Hey, Chris.
Hi, how are you?
Doing all right. How are you doing?
Doing fine, thanks.
I tried to skip this meeting, but Chrissy wouldn't let me.
She's a hard taskmaster, right?
That's true. That's
I'm a
true.
bully. I will do it. My wrong link and everything. I still make them show up.
Well, at least we know we're in good hands with you.
So weird. I just compared the links. They show the same on both. The new one
That's
that I
what I-
sent and the old one, but the other one still goes to the planning commission.
Exactly.
We must have some, we need like a smudging or something. I don't
Something's
know.
strange happening there, because
Needs
that
to
was
split.
exactly what happened with last time with Quinn and I. He was sending me the link and
Yeah.
every time I would click on it, it would go to planning commission. And I
That's
could
so-
not figure it out.
Oh, that's what I kept getting is planning commission. I was like, huh.
And like, the links are exactly the same, but one of them goes to the planning commission and one of them comes to the right link. So.
Oh. Wrong button. Too many things.
All right, well, now I have a quorum.
Now Emily.
Okay, now that's open.
Hello, thank you.
Hey, sorry for that.
Hey, Judge.
Sorry.
Oh.
The planning commission was trying to take over our meeting, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, this isn't as fun as planning commission. Or maybe it is, I don't know. You have a cooler name anyways.
All right, you're up, Mike.
Call this meeting to order of criminal justice, CJCC, we'll go with the acronym, also known as Justice League,
222.
222, 2:22 p.m. Yes, at 2:22 p.m. on July, or September 19th, 2024.
In person, we have.
Oh, who's a member? Who do we have to say?
All right, I'm just saying it's here.
Say whoever, everyone that's here in the room and everybody that's online.
Everyone that's here in the room and everyone that's online, or do I have to say everyone's particular name?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's go round table here. Commissioner Mike McCurdy,
Nathaniel Clark, victim advocate.
Kristen Hoffine from the attorney's office.
Alicia Oliver from the admin office.
Christine Rogers, Grand County Managing Public Defender. Did we lose Judge O'Donnell, maybe?
Nope, I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
Didn't know if we were to me or not. It's hard to know without being there in the room.
We're to
Danielle
you.
Welch O'Donnell, Grand County Justice Court.
And I think that's good.
Mhm.
First of all, I want to know how I got voted in as chair.
You weren't here.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Commissioner automatically is chair, per bylaw.
Good to know,
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah.
First, citizen to be heard. We have no citizen to be heard, none online. No presentations. Approval of last meeting's minutes. Do we have last meeting's minutes posted? Or, okay,
Those were sent to me by Stephen. I did not bring them, so that's.
we will push that till
Push
the
that.
next meeting. Member reports? No commission, no member reports. Any new business?
Just discussion.
Just discussion items? New business, old business, skipping to discussion items. Number one, interpretation services on scene.
Yeah.
Why, thank you. Chris, do you want to preface this at all with anything that you and I had discussed, or should I just kind of dive into it a little bit?
Do you want to dive into it and then I'll follow up if I think you missed anything, which I doubt you will?
Please do. So I guess what this stems from is we were talking to a couple of clients about the way officers were handling incidents on scene when there's a need for interpretation for other languages. So a little bit of background, as you guys know, Utah has a lot of different languages spoken. Here in Grand County, it's primarily English and Spanish. There's also, you know, a few other languages, some Navajo, a few other things, mostly English and Spanish. So it's not at all unusual for officers responding to crime scenes to be interacting with members of the public who are fluent in, specifically Spanish is the most common one, but maybe have really limited English proficiency. So some questions were raised about how the officers were going about handling these incidences when they were trying to interface with members of the public that aren't very proficient in English. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. And because the officers on scene are often under so much pressure with all different things going on, they're going to gravitate to whatever's most convenient. But often that means that the most convenient interpreter is a member of the family or the victim in an alleged crime or the alleged perpetrator in a crime. And that's just not ideal to turn to a family member for interpretive services or language services, especially on a crime scene. So
Particularly with
indeed, well, and you don't want to allow an alleged perpetrator to be the only one who's conversing fluently with an officer, and likewise, you don't want an alleged victim to be the only one who's fluently conversing with an officer, right? There's a lot of potential issues there. So I don't know specifically about the Grand County Sheriff's Office. I know that Moab PD has a language service that is contracted, and officers can call a hotline number to have an interpreter available. I think 24 hours a day. I imagine the sheriff's office has something similar, but I don't know specifically about it. But it just comes down to, I think, making sure that officers are familiar with the resources that are available and are aware of how critical it is in the moment to utilize like proper and appropriately trained language services. And it has a lot of implications for, you know, on-scene safety for officers. I mean, domestic violence calls are the single most dangerous kind of call that officers respond to.
Mm-hmm.
So an officer having really accurate information and as best knowledge as possible of what's going on with the scene is important, even just for their own safety in that moment, but also for successful investigation of a crime and eventual potential prosecution of a crime too. If the officer doesn't have the best information possible, none of the rest of our system can really work very well. So I have been approached by the Multicultural Center with some observations they had from victims on scene where family members were providing the interpretation. We've had court cases where a couple of members of the jury had approached me after one particular case when a large body of evidence in the case was in Spanish and the jury wasn't provided English transcripts of the content. And the jury wanted to know why that was. And I didn't have an answer for them, but like, that's problematic. Like, that's huge. If you're a juror and you're being asked to decide a case and you feel like there's information potentially being left out by one party or another. So there's a lot of different ways that this can be really challenging to the criminal justice system. So I talked with Chris Rogers about it, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I think she shares the same concerns that the rest of us did. And I don't know that we need to reinvent anything. I think the structures are already in place with various language services that can provide professional interpretation on scene. I think we just need to make sure that all of the different agencies, police officers, dispatch, the courts, hospitals, medical care, everybody, we need to make sure everybody is aware of their language policies, make sure the language policies are adequate to their needs, and make sure that people in the field are utilizing the structures that are.
So you had mentioned that the PD contracts with somebody who does this 24/7.
Yeah, there's a hotline that we can call.
And do you know anything about that contract? Or is
It's
it-
probably called language lines. That's what the court has access to. There's a state contract available for language line services.
Thank you.
And we have it too, through Indigent Defense Commission. We've got one called Voyance that you can access an interpreter on the telephone. All you have to do is call in, put in the account number, and then someone in the correct language, and there's like a huge variety of languages that they can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it sounds like it's all very agency specific, so like the court has one. You know, the sheriff may or may not have one, I'm just trying to like wrap my head around.
We could, so maybe the process would be to just like have some kind of recommendation that that's what we use. And one of my concerns is using kids as the interpreters. And I think probably Nathaniel's seen that too. When the only person in the scene who speaks English other than the police officer is the kid who speaks Spanish and English, and then makes it worse.
So I think that those are important concerns, but as far as the purpose of us getting into the nitty-gritty on that, I think that there's a lot of other avenues that should be addressed through. I think that that's important to bring to our attention. So I guess I don't know what the intent is behind the discussion today, other than just the purpose of a discussion for that. And also, I think that Language Line I think it's available to other agencies, not just the courts. I can't remember specifically, but I've had other conversations with different entities that weren't the courts that also use language lines. There does exist a state contract. So I don't know if that's within something that, local entities could piggyback on that contract. Justice courts specifically, where we're in that weird realm of not state, but still part of the state, right? So we fall a little bit strange in that, and we're working on the justice courts as a whole are working on their own contract for language line services too. But we do have it and have access to it, but it is a little bit pricey, but obviously we have a duty and a need to use that service. But anyways, I was just curious. I mean, I think this is an important topic, but
Pricing in how much? Do you know?
I think it depends on, it's by the minute. And I haven't seen the bill recently. I remember a couple of years ago, I want to say it was the number, and please don't quote me on this, but I think I remember it being like over $1 a minute, something like that. And usually it goes on for quite a while, and sometimes we've even had trouble, but there's been a few languages, obviously Spanish and some of the more common are easier to find, but yeah, one time we couldn't find a person that spoke the language that we needed, so that was fun.
I know, we had a case where I think we needed Laotian.
That's what I was thinking.
I think it was Laotian, and that the court case took longer than it should have for that reason. It's also worth mentioning that we have the Multicultural Center, and I think it's important that people realize that, agencies may need sign agreements with the Multicultural Center to use them, but many of the interpreters with the Multicultural Center are trained professional interpreters for these purposes. And that's free. I shouldn't say that out loud. They'll probably start billing us. They should bill us, honestly, but they don't. So
yeah, and we pay the Multicultural Center. They bill us, and we pay them for their services that they use. And there are for court purposes, and there are different levels of interpreters, like different levels of its certification. So I would say that that's also something that if the purpose of this is to determine that we need more language services available in our area, then we also need to look at what those specific needs are and what level of certified interpreter we need, right?
Well, I think what Nathaniel and I were thinking is to make sure that we're using it, like when a call comes into dispatch and that dispatch has access to a language interpreter to understand what's being said. And then the same thing for the officers who go on scene, who respond to the call. I think that's what our concern is, not in court. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that is my understanding as well.
Right, and I think that makes sense. I think that what was being sort of brought up was more the technicality of the case and what level of interpretation and what that does to the case moving forward, whether we have like what level of interpretation is provided on scene could be detrimental to the case either way. I think was kind of the point I think or Judge Welch O'Donnell was trying to make. And that's where I keep getting hung up on is what does this lack of interpretation do to a case? But that's because of where I work.
Right. And without those agencies here, it's hard for us to have a discussion about what it is they do or don't do, because I mean, I would say that A, that's their responsibility to do, and B, we don't know what they do exactly, but they're doing something. But
You understand that Nathaniel works he's a victim advocate for this city police and the sheriff, right?
Mhm.
So
Right, I mean, I understand that part, I think. I mean, it's definitely something to think about, I just think. This requires people at the table who aren't here,
I
if
agree.
that makes sense, yeah.
Right. We need the chief and the sheriff to come in.
Yeah. Yeah, cause that would be sort of a policy, that would be a policy on their end, and I mean, yes, we could, sort of advocate for that, we could drive that, but it would ultimately be. A sheriff's office or a police department policy, so it will require,
And I doubt this actually is a new policy that needs to be created. I'd be very surprised if these
Yeah.
agencies didn't have a language service policy. I think it's making sure that officers and dispatchers are
Aware.
aware of the resources available. And also communicating the importance of it, because even if you're aware of the resources and you're aware of the policy, it's a million times easier to just use the kid that speaks English who's sitting on the couch, So also communicating the need for doing that differently.
Yeah.
I think that wraps up that discussion topic.
Chris, anything else that's worth throwing out there?
I don't think so, but I do think, it is something that we probably need to see if we can get the sheriff and the chief in so we can, or just write a note or something, just say, we were talking about this. However, anybody wants to proceed. And because I can even see from the state's point of view, you have a child who's interpreting, then you make that child a witness. And that never works out well for either side, right? So anyway. And sometimes people are having mental health crisis and they don't know because they're not getting, the information isn't provided because of lack of communication.
Anyone, anything else? Okay, we're moving on to discussion topic number 2, pretrial services. Who is leading this discussion?
Chris brought this to my attention, so I'll let her take the lead on this.
Well, I did, and I spoke to Lieutenant Shackwell, who was going to a sheriff's meeting, and he was going to talk to other agencies and who are like more similar to Grand County and see what they are doing on pretrial. It's kind of been a topic kicked around just for Commissioner McCurdy that was brought up a few months ago and then kind of fell by the wayside. And just to sort of give you some background, it's a lot less expensive to have, assuming someone's not a danger to the community, to have them out on pretrial release rather than being held in the jail. It just economically, it makes more sense. And Lieutenant Hackwell talked about that at one of the meetings. But anyway, we're not really similar to other counties. And Chrissy and I talked about that, like Salt Lake County, Utah County, they actually have pretrial services are part of their government. But we don't need that in Grand County. It's, and it makes more sense in Grand County to have it as under the sheriff's department and like a shared responsibility. So maybe part drug court, part was it 24/7, which are the DUI releases, I think, and then pretrial releases, but they'd need the resource for that. But anyway, I think we need to wait until Lieutenant Hackwell can come to one of our meetings and report back on what he found out and see what he recommends. Because he's, you know, he seems to me like he has his finger on the pulse and he knows what his budget's like and all that stuff. So maybe we can put it off.
And to build on that, I would say that the Carbon County Sheriff's Office has a similar model where it's housed within their sheriff's office. And I think two people share the duties of it. So perhaps even inviting somebody from there to give us an idea of what they do might be helpful, or what that looks like for them.
Well, I think just some background, when earlier, when budget season last year was, we were looking at it, I spoke with Jameson, and they track it with their drug court. So Carbon's pretrial services seems like it's done with drug court. With SB 84 with the school, our drug court is now tied up with the school resource. So according to Jameson, it will sort of take another position. It will require enough funding for another position within the sheriff's office. But again, yeah, we'll wait for Shan. But that was sort of where the conversation with Jameson that I had kind of left off.
So all in all, waiting for updates when received from Shan. And
Shan, yeah, I think it's just like a funding sort of like what the funding for it looks like. I think
Okay.
that's what we really need to nail down.
both needs and where to get it.
Mhm.
Okay. Using that, rolling into discussion topic number 3, funding sources. This one is partially me. I still need to find out exact details. I know that we're gonna have to write a letter for needs that we pie in the sky, what we're gonna need, where we think the most money will do the most good across the board, and about, I mean, rough estimates is what they were talking about. Everyone at Utah Association of Counties knew that this is hopes and it's not hopes and dreams. This is 30,000 foot view. This isn't direct needs. This is large ideas, and where each county would want to take their CJCC funding. If it was to come from state and or federally pass through the state, they spoke on many points, but I do not have all the details as they were still putting them together. This just got announced a week ago at UAC. So
just to make sure that I'm understanding, so we need to draft a letter to UAC or to the AG's office?
I need to find out if it's
Okay.
gonna go through Steve, I can't remember his name, representative,
Okay,
but if it's gonna go to him directly or to an office directly.
and
So,
this is like broad stroke view of where we
Yes.
would want funds to go. So broad stroke would be, to not like a surgical look at, we need this amount for a
yeah, it wouldn't be like,
broad stroke,
yeah.
but so pretrial services could be our broad
Yes.
stroke, is what you're saying. Okay, and when does this letter need to be done?
They were talking about a month and a half from the UAC meeting. But again, I don't have exact dates. We weren't supplied with any exacts.
No, that's fine, and that's normal.
Yeah.
And these are more details than I usually get when I have to draft a letter, so this is great.
But all of it was coming up by, I mean, legislature time, so they could get,
So they can get funding.
yeah,
Right, so. Similar to what we did last year with our like. You know. I don't even know, we called it mapping, I think,
okay,
last
it was a
year.
little before me, but.
Yeah,
I-
so we did a
sounds like-
mapping
yeah.
situation where we asked for like funding, and this is where we would like to focus going forward on our needs of the county. This is similar, but instead of a mapping, we're just doing a letter, is the way I'm understanding it. All right,
Chrissy,
and I'm
did we
assuming
get,
everyone's okay with me doing that?
were our bylaws ever finalized? Cause that was one step we had to do.
They were voted on, and then they were ratified by the commission.
Okay.
Immediately
All
after.
right. I think I missed that meeting, but anyway, I'm gonna ask you to send me a copy.
Yep, I'll send them.
Isn't there a copy of the website?
There should be a copy of the website, but I'll send them out to you
Oh, I
as well.
thought. Okay, thanks.
But, that was the main announcement from, the funding sources, where,
So they
Funny.
know how much to appropriate from like an aging
Yeah,
fund or something.
yeah.
Okay,
and there were several other counties that were, I mean, it was. I hate to say this, it was still pretty vague, but, there were several other counties that had a lot of questions that came up during it. The presenter did not have all the answers right then, but said we'll be in contact in the near future on all points. And I mean, I reach out to you consistently once a month, so I'll try to get updates as fast as possible.
and Andy Faulkner did send out an email, I don't know if everyone was on it, but about. Grant opportunities
Mhm.
specifically for pretrial services. There wasn't a ton appropriated to that, and. With a grant, it seems like there's a lot of reporting, and it almost requires a little more than what this group seemed able to sort of handle.
Mhm.
So I pushed it aside, and it is there if people want to pursue the grant funding for pretrial services. But like I said, it was like a pretty small amount for the entire state, and you would only get a portion of that. Grants are a lot to manage and write, and so it just, I felt like the buy-in for the amount we would probably get the cost benefit wasn't panning out to me, but if that's something that you guys feel like we should do, we could take that off, but.
How much was the grant? Like total, do you
Well, I
remember?
think the total amount of funding was, I don't remember exactly, I wanna say it was 300,000, but that was for the entire state.
Yeah.
So the
Broke by
bites
29.
of that were, the 29 counties, the bites of that aren't that great.
Right,
I
and
don't-
then having to have someone have
But if
staff do
there is
that.
someone who has a huge plan that could take a bigger chunk and implement it in a way that's more beneficial to them. Sometimes
Right.
leaving something on the table for someone else is actually better.
Well, and you have to figure in the cost of managing the grant, which would be, sometimes you end up upside down.
Right. Yeah.
Unless Alicia wants to do it.
Shaking my head over there.
I think she doesn't.
I'm just here.
I've never seen her jump below her table.
She was so excited, right? Give up golf and
No way.
a grant.
No, can't be talking like that on my golf day.
Well, that was as soon as I get updates, I will update, the group, probably through email, will be the quickest on that one, but. Does anyone else have any points?
No, I'll just tell you guys, this was really interesting to sit in on for. It
Aw.
was just interesting conversation. Throw that out there for you.
By the
It's
way,
interesting.
nice to meet you, Commissioner McCurdy. I haven't had the pleasure. I was used to Evan.
And nice to meet you. I wish I would have been or I got told that I got voluntold to lead meetings, but that's okay.
This is like the best meeting of the county, right?
This is a pretty good one.
It's the
That's a pretty good
Justice
one.
League. We need like capes and masks and
I know, I was really disappointed. I'm
That was
gonna
really
be
my fault.
honest.
October is coming. I just gonna state that for everyone.
I didn't mean to send out an invite with that name on it.
I love it.
It's not bad.
Problematic.
Cat's out of the bag now. Yeah.
We could have like cakes with delicate arch or something on it. That would be fun.
But no, very nice to meet you. Thank you guys for having me, and as fast as I can get up to speed to be a quality member, I will do so. So,
Thank you.
yeah. With that,
Have a next scheduled,
go ahead.
Next
do we
meeting.
have a next meeting date?
What did the bylaws say? Did you just call mine?
Did you?
Yeah.
Sorry, we're doing that.
I wanna say it's January or December.
Just gonna start grabbing people for on the meetings.
Say you.
Hey,
And it's
come here.
I was gonna also give you guys a reminder of when our next domestic violence compliance docket training is, and I'm not finding it in my calendar, so I will be happy to send that out if anybody's interested in coming, for those of you that aren't already coming anyhow.
All right, yeah,
No, you're fine. I buried that somewhere weird.
yeah, these aren't as familiar as the most as the rest.
Yeah, well, I kind of like to throw the rule book out the
Yeah,
window
why?
when I do these. And like,
Makes
let's
it like
just
an
make this
adventure.
complicated.
Meetings.
I'm looking to see if I. can
Okay,
find
good,
it.
because I'm. Quarterly, in the months of March, June, September, and December. So the next one would be December.
December. Are Thursdays still good for everyone?
Yeah.
Or is there a better day? I think Thursday was the default, but if there's a better day, we're open.
Thursdays work for me.
Um. Okay, so we've got the 5th, the 12th. I would rather not have them the last 2 weeks because that gets crazy with Christmas.
That entirely gets too busy for me.
Yeah, so we could do the 5th or the 12th. The 5th is this week of a commission meeting. The 12th is an off week.
And it's only available in the afternoon. That's
So 2 p.m.
like after
Possibly.
2.
Doing
It'd have to be because the house. Oh. Actually, of course, got their stuff finished, so they don't have to be there anymore, so it's probably good after 11
on the 5th.
on the 5th.
Does the 5th work for everyone?
Or if it's on the 12th, anytime that day is fine.
And then is morning or afternoon better? So drug court, it does look like we have, or it's not called drug court anymore. What's it
I
called?
think there's a county leadership meeting on the morning of the 5th, so, and I have another meeting from 12 to 2, so the 2 o'clock works for me on the 5th.
2 o'clock on the 5th? All right, let's do it then. I will try and make the link right this time. We won't let Quinn do it.
So that's
I
as
can
we
tell
come to
it was
the end
your
of
end of the bus.
as we come to the end of our planning and zoning meeting.
Yeah. We couldn't get it to stop saying planning commission.
Yeah. Well, with that, I will adjourn this meeting.
It's good to see you all.
Thank you.
I'll
guys.
You.
be there next time in person so we don't have this snafu, but happens. No.
Thank you, everybody.